What I would like to do is just to ask the co-chairs for some very quick thoughts that they've had going through the minds today, and maybe each one can just give us a minute or two, and we'll do the final summation. But we will continue this dialogue going forward anyway. So please, Aditi, can you just share some thoughts with you about today?
So I think the session was, in my mind, was fast because I think it was heartening to see that a lot of us were. Sorry, are you guys able? Is there a lot of echo, or is it just me?
It keeps cutting in. It's a bit intermittent, actually.
Sorry, could someone else start and I'll figure out my audio in the meantime? Sorry, because I can't hear the thing.
Stephen, can you mute there, please?
Can I mute?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Stephen. Can you give us your thoughts then? Because I think.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I thought it was. There was one person in my room actually, which is actually quite good given the fact that there was only 5 minutes to catch up at the end there. But one of the things that struck me throughout all of this conversation is, I think as we think about what it is that we're going to do, I think we've got to try and figure out. There are a number of different angles we could approach this from, and for whose benefit are we trying to deliver value to? Right? A bank will have a different view on this from an infrastructure. Will have a different view on this if they're serving a retail customer or corporate flows, and we need to be mindful about where we sit against that background and what do we want to go and focus on, because otherwise we're going to go down a path which won't be wrong, but which may not add the most value into that story. I think that's one of the things that there's a lot of good content from the speakers. I really like what Mohit had to say at the end, actually, and it's a shame that we ended up having to cut him off, because I think really. It's easy to get stuck on the obvious things like cost and price, and of course, at a commercial level, we all care about that. But understanding why people make payments, and why people move money across borders, what comes off the back of that, I think it's really critical to thinking through the value that this group can then go and play.
Perfect, thank you. Now I'm going to go to Rich, and then we'll go back to you, Aditi, at the end there again.
Great, yeah, thanks. So I had 4 or 5 folks at my table, and I think the overall kickoff to the session really stimulated some great thoughts. We actually started talking about building blocks, and I think that really the top 2 were vision and targets. Like, let's set the frame. I think that's consistent, Stephen, with your goal. Like, what does success look like for this group? And then secondly, there's a pretty big body of work to do related to aligning on regulatory types of items, whether it be hours of operation or all sorts of other types of things. So I think that those 2 themes really emerged. And I have a lot of personal curiosity when we look at the message sets and harmonizing them, seeing what comes out of the BIS innovation session. So who knows, maybe we get a quick, easy answer there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more about the private sector challenge here that you've touched on, because on the one hand, we've got to face off to our clients, and on the other hand, we've got to deal with the regulators. So we've got both sides of this, whereas the public sector probably have more one side of it. Yeah. Thanks. Aditi, how are you looking now? Can you?
I'm good. I sorted it out. I think there's no echo now, which is great. So no, actually, more of the same. I also loved, what Mohit pointed out, because I think very often the nuance of what is important to who gets missed out, right? So for example, I mean, yes, a hedge fund wouldn't care about transparency as much as, let's say, a retail individual would. And an SME honestly might care a little bit more about something else as opposed to speed of payments, right? And so I think once we're able to honestly identify those, blocks of what is important to who and how to optimize each, because one thing that stood out for me today is as fintechs, we're so used to hearing that banks think we're the enemy, and I'm sure banks think the other way around, but nobody said that today, right? Everyone said that what we need to improve, for example, are the way we look at risk, right? The way we handle failure. And so those are almost common enemies, right? And so we've done a fantastic job of identifying those enemies. And so if we know that that is what we want to build towards essentially improving, to create a more robust framework so that then everyone has a system of common trust. And so then you can go and selectively solve for, what matters to each type of entity within a system.
Okay, I agree 100%, Aditi, on that. And if we think about this public-private partnership and engagement story that's wrapped around this, it's our job to really inform that discussion, because if we don't inform it, what's going to end up happening is, you're going to get the BIS or the FSB who make a series of assumptions that it's a one-size-fits-all problem, and it may not be as blunt as that. But I think that's the risk that we run, that we can bring the experience we have together to figure out, what really are the critical pain points it's going to solve for. What is SWIFT not going to solve for on its own, right? What can the banks not solve for on their own? What can we, as other participants in that space, not solve for, but we have good answers for, right? So,
well, thank you. That's these are. Like, sorry for keeping this so brief, but we're just on the hour. So, I think the sense is that there's lots more to talk about, which is great. But can I just maybe give some more details about where we're moving from here as well? So every 6 weeks, we plan to have these sessions. We will sort of vary the format to suit, and the theme as well. There are already some things in play. We will, obviously, there's lots of events coming up, and there's events coming, CPMI and BIS, in the next couple of weeks. So these are things we will be getting involved into. So I guess the question really for everyone here on the line is what are our roles? What are we going to be doing? As we've just heard here, all parties have different aspects and different ways to play, and different challenges and different opportunities. So it's really sort of thinking what is your role? Where do you want to go? We have lots of ways to get involved in this forum. Attending is one, obviously. Looking at considering what these subgroups are. We will talk about them offline and with the co-chairs and consider what needs to be done there. But also the facilitation in these events. We will look to do more and get more time at that for future events, and also people to get involved in writing. So we will put together a brief after this event to describe where we went to today, and to give some thoughts for where we get to on the next event. So I do want to just mention that we will have a contribution to B1G1, the charity for everyone who attended today, for those less fortunate who are not able to avail of this educational facilities. And I will sign off at this stage because, as I say, we're right on the hour. And thank everyone for their time today. And I really look forward to the exciting road that we have ahead. And let's get started on this work that we have to do.
Thank you so much.
That's great. Thank you. First step's always the hardest, so we got that under our belt.
Thanks, Rich.
Cheers.